Have you ever considered that some of the deep-seated pains in your marriage might not originate from inside your home, but from a shadow stretching from the outside? A silent, invisible force whispering discord where harmony once lived. Imagine the beautiful web of affection you built, thread by thread, being subtly unraveled by hands you cannot see, by words you have never heard, yet they echo in the unseen realm. Is it possible that the storm raging in your home isn't just a common disagreement, but the distant echo of a negative prayer, a silent curse working to dismantle what God has joined together? Many assume that marital problems are simply the product of human error, of failed communication, or of passions that fade over time. But what if there is something more? An energetic interference, a spiritual assault that manifests in the smallest cracks of your relationship, turning love into resentment, patience into irritation, and understanding into a chasm of silence? What if the peace that once reigned has now become an invisible battlefield, where every argument, every misunderstanding, is an arrow shot from a place you can't even imagine? Feel that growing unrest, that doubt settling in your chest. What would you do if you discovered that the root of so much pain isn't in you or your partner, but in a hidden plot, a spiritual work operating in the shadows, draining the very life from your marriage? How can you identify the signs, the subtle marks left by this unwanted presence, before it completely consumes the flame that still insists on shining? The very air you breathe together might be charged with an energy that doesn't belong to you. A slow poison disguised as fatigue, routine, and a lack of love. Prepare to uncover a mystery that few dare to touch, to see beyond the obvious and protect what is most sacred in your life. This is a call for those who feel that something is deeply wrong but cannot find the words for it. If you are ready to dive into the depths of this truth and find the keys to your freedom, I invite you to join this journey. Subscribe now to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of this revelation that could transform the destiny of your marriage. There is a battle that is not fought with visible weapons or audible words, but in the silence of our hearts and the spiritual atmosphere of our homes. It is an invisible war, as the Holy Word warns us in 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verses 3 and 4. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. This truth resonates when love, which should be the foundation, seems to crumble for no apparent reason. When lightness becomes a heavy burden and the presence of your spouse, once a safe harbor, now evokes a strange sense of being trapped. Have you noticed how, all of a sudden, communication becomes a minefield where any word, no matter how innocent, can detonate into a misunderstanding? Or how intimacy, which once flowed so naturally, now feels forced, like an empty ritual devoid of any soul? These aren't just the normal signs of wear and tear. They can be the fingerprints of a force working between the lines. They could be the result of a prayer against you manifesting as a heavy veil over your joy, or a curse taking root in your sweetest memories, twisting them into bitterness. Think about the small frictions that morph into giant conflicts, the trivial discussions that escalate into ferocious fights, leaving you both feeling misunderstood, attacked, and utterly exhausted. Recall that nagging feeling that something is off, but you can't quite pinpoint what it is, as if a dense fog has settled between you, obscuring your vision and affection. Or perhaps it's the unexplainable absence of desire, a sudden coldness, or constant irritation with habits that you once tolerated or even found endearing. These are like cracks in the foundation, expanding silently, threatening the entire structure. It's a pain that isn't healed by simple apologies or promises of a new start, because its origin seems to lie beyond the reach of reason. It's an echo of old wounds, of forgotten traumas that suddenly resurface with overwhelming intensity, as if they are being fed by an external source. And you ask yourself, where is all this emotional exhaustion, this disillusionment, coming from, if love still exists somewhere, beating faintly but still present? It's the mind that becomes confused, the heart that grows distressed, and the soul that feels the weight of a battle it did not choose to fight. But what can you do when the shadow seems larger than the light? When the invisible makes itself known in the tangible, and your faith is tested by a reality that defies logic? The first key is recognition, having the courage to look into the abyss and admit that the solution may not lie in human effort alone, but in divine intervention. It's understanding that protecting your marriage might require more than dialogue, more than therapy, more than the simple will to love. It might require spiritual armor and a keen awareness of the signs the spiritual world is trying to show us. Observe carefully. A marriage that should be a blooming garden sometimes turns into a barren field, where the seeds of discord sprout without warning. Have you noticed an inexplicable coldness, a heavy silence that settles in, even when there are no unspoken words, just an absence of warmth, or perhaps the opposite, explosive anger over trivial matters? A constant irritability that seems to come from a place that is neither yours nor your spouse's, as if a strange energy were fanning embers instead of kindling the flame of affection. It's as if the very atmosphere of your home has changed, becoming dense and oppressive, and the peace that was once so present has become a distant mirage. Consider the small details that have become huge mountains. A look that once brought comfort now seems filled with judgment. A touch that was once caring is now just a formality. What if your mind, once so clear about the love you feel, is now filled with doubts and negative thoughts about your beloved? As if a voice is whispering lies about their character, about your future together. This is not just the natural wear and tear of life together. It could be the signature of an intervention, of a negative prayer seeking to sow discord, or a hex trying to blind you to the qualities and the divine purpose of your matrimony. Another disturbing sign can be a constant feeling of exhaustion, not just physical, but of the soul. You feel drained, with no energy to fight, no will to invest, as if an invisible force is siphoning the vitality from your relationship. Or consider the repetition of negative patterns, arguments that repeat with the same talking points, financial problems that appear out of nowhere and directly impact marital harmony, or unexplained illnesses that strike one or both partners just when the relationship seemed to be recovering. These are vicious cycles that close in on the couple, preventing any progress, any breath of hope. And what about the loss of desire? Not just physical, but that deep longing to be together, to share, to build. Intimacy becomes a minefield, communication shatters into fragments, and the joy of simply existing beside each other evaporates, replaced by a sense of emptiness or even repulsion. It's as if the light that once guided your path is being extinguished, little by a thick fog that prevents a clear view of the purpose and love that united you. This spiritual dryness, this difficulty in praying together or even feeling God's presence in your home, can be an alarming symptom. These are not mere whims of fate or character flaws. They are signs, marks left by a battle unfolding in the unseen, an attempt to dismantle what is sacred. As the scripture says in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour." And marriage, being a divine institution, is a constant target. Recognizing these signs is the first step to raising a shield of protection, to understanding that the fight is real, but that victory is always possible for those who seek truth and divine protection. Imagine a couple that suddenly starts having disturbing dreams, vivid nightmares that leave them exhausted and frightened upon waking, as if a dense energy enveloped them during sleep. Or perhaps the feeling that the house, once a refuge, now feels heavy, with objects moving inexplicably or strange noises echoing in moments of silence. A friend told me that after a series of unexplainable fights with her husband, she began to smell a strong, unpleasant odor in her home that no one else noticed, and she would see shadows in the corners of her eyes. These are practical examples of how the invisible can manifest in daily life, as if the environment itself were reacting to an external force. Also, think about those situations where one or both partners begin to feel a profound discouragement about the marriage, a sudden urge to give up, to run away, even when there's no apparent reason for it. It's as if an internal voice, which is not your own, whispers the idea of separation, suggesting there's no hope, that love is dead. This can manifest in impulsive actions, in decisions made under intense emotion that later bring regret, but, in the moment, seem like the only way out. This is the mind being attacked, the will being weakened, and faith being tested at its core. Or consider the case of couples who, once united in purpose and dreams, start to have completely opposite visions for the future, as if they are walking in different directions, unable to find a point of convergence. Shared projects that were once a source of joy and unity now generate conflict and disinterest. It's as though their very vision for the future has been obscured. and the hope of building something together has been replaced by a sense of hopelessness and isolation. This disharmony in plans and vision can be a strong indicator that something is working to divert their path. There is also the phenomenon of value inversion, where what was once right becomes tolerable, and what was unacceptable begins to be justified. One spouse might become excessively critical, pathologically jealous, or develop destructive habits and addictions they never had before, which directly affect the relationship. It's as if the person's essence is being corrupted, and their kindness and patience are replaced by a hardness and impatience that are not characteristic of them. This abrupt change in temperament and character, without any apparent reason, is a sign that cannot be ignored. Remember what is written in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 3. But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. This resistance is not passivity, but a conscious action of turning to the source of all protection. These practical examples are not meant to create fear, but to ignite the flame of vigilance and action. They serve as a mirror, reflecting the possibility that what you are experiencing is not just a phase, but a call to a spiritual battle that requires faith, discernment, and the pursuit of solutions that transcend the material plane. Faced with a scenario where the invisible manifests in the tangible, where pain creeps in through paths that reason cannot trace, the answer does not lie in superficial solutions, but in a deep dive into faith and spiritual action. The first step is to recognize that the battle is real, and that your strength lies not only in your own will, but in your connection with the divine. It is a call to lift your eyes upward, to seek a power that transcends human limitations, and to put on armor that the world cannot see, but that protects you from all the arrows shot in the shadows. Prayer, in this context, is not a mere ritual but an act of spiritual warfare, an intimate and powerful conversation with the Creator that disarms evil intentions and unties the knots that bind. It is in the quiet of your room, or in the cry of your heart, that invisible chains can be broken. As Jeremiah chapter 33 verse 3 teaches us, "Call to me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." This is the key to untying what has been bound, to purifying the atmosphere, and to restoring the peace that was stolen. Beyond prayer, spiritual vigilance becomes an indispensable compass. This means not only praying, but also watching your thoughts, your emotions, and the words you and your spouse speak. The enemy often works by sowing discord through small openings, gossip, unfounded jealousy, or unresolved grudges. It is necessary to close these doors, to forgive what needs to be forgiven, and to distance yourself from influences that nurture negativity. This is an act of self-protection and of protecting your home, a commitment to light in the midst of darkness. Spiritual reflection, in turn, is the mirror that reveals hidden truths. Ask yourself, what has changed in your faith, in your connection with God, since these problems began to arise? Where have you drifted from the principles that govern a blessed marriage? Seeking biblical knowledge, counsel from mature spiritual leaders, and a faith community that supports you are pillars for strengthening your soul and the soul of your marriage. It is in the Word that we find the wisdom to discern and the strength to resist. Remember that hope is not a passive feeling but an active force that drives action. Do not ignore the signs, but do not surrender to despair either. God's power is greater than any negative prayer, greater than any curse. Believe that it is possible to reverse the situation, restore what was broken, and shield your marriage from future attacks. The journey is challenging, but the reward is the peace, unity, and blessing that God has for you and your family. Even when the darkness seems dense and the voices of discouragement whisper that the end is inevitable, it is crucial to remember that divine light always prevails over the shadows. Faith is not just a passive belief, but an active force capable of moving mountains and untying the tightest knots. As the book of Mark, chapter 11 verse 23, reminds us, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go, throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes that what they say will happen, it will be done for them." This is the anchor for your soul, the certainty that even when everything seems to be falling apart, there is a higher power working in your favor, ready to restore what has been wounded. Make no mistake, the fight against spiritual forces of evil requires more than mere intentions. It demands a firm stance, an unshakable decision to protect what God has entrusted to you. This means not giving in to despair, not nurturing grudges, and not allowing mistrust to take root in your heart. It is a daily act of courage, of choosing love over resentment, patience over irritation, and hope over resignation. Every small choice, every whispered prayer, every act of forgiveness is one more brick in the rebuilding of your marital sanctuary. Think of perseverance as a river that, even when faced with obstacles, finds its way to the sea. Your marriage, no matter how much it may be traversing a desert, can flourish again if you water it with faith and persistence. Seek wisdom in the scriptures, which are like a map for the soul, revealing the secrets to victory. The Word of God is living and effective, and it has the power to discern the thoughts and intentions of the heart, revealing where the enemy has been at work and how to unmask him. It is a shield and a sword in your hands, a guide for the journey. And if, in the midst of this journey, you feel alone, remember that you are not. The Creator of the universe is by your side, ready to extend His hand and guide your steps. He knows every tear, every sigh, every pain you carry. Seeking a spiritual counselor, a mentor who has already walked similar paths, can be the compass that helps you navigate through turbulent waters. There is no shame in asking for help, but rather wisdom in recognizing that some battles are better fought with the support of someone who already has the experience and anointing to guide. The restoration of your marriage is not just a wish, but a divine promise for those who trust. It is a process that requires time, dedication, and a genuine surrender to God's will. Allow the truth to free you from the yoke of doubt. Let faith heal the invisible wounds, and let love, the true love that comes from above, be the driving force for transformation. What was planted to destroy can be undone by prayer and obedience to divine principles, and so we arrive at the threshold of a truth that is not seen with the eyes but felt with the soul. If with every word you felt a shiver, if a doubt has settled where certainty once was, and if hope, once dormant, has begun to pulse again in your chest, it is because something has been awakened. This journey through these hidden signs was not just about identifying what works against you, but about recognizing the strength that resides within you, a flame that refuses to be extinguished. Even under the densest shadows, the veil that covered the truth is beginning to lift, revealing not an end, but a new beginning. Allow this seed planted in your silence to flourish. Let the awareness of invisible battles strengthen you, and let faith become your unbreakable shield. This is not about fear, but about discernment, not about despair, but about an awakening to the reality that your marriage is sacred territory, worthy of all protection and love. The pain that brought you here may be the gateway to a profound transformation, a break from what held you captive, and the rediscovery of a love that transcends all trials. Remember, the true power is not in fighting against the shadows, but in turning on your own light. And that light, when fueled by faith and truth, is capable of dispelling any darkness, untying any knot, and healing any wound. Your marriage is a reflection of divine love, and no negative prayer, no curse, has the power to destroy what was sealed by God unless you allow it. The truth is a path, not a destination, and with every step, you draw closer to the fullness that was promised to you. If this journey has touched your soul, if it has awakened in you the courage to fight for what is yours by divine right, then the invitation is for this quest to continue. Like this video so that this message can reach more hearts that need to awaken. Leave your comment, share your experience, because your story may be the light another couple needs to find their way. And, so that this source of wisdom and protection never runs dry, subscribe to the channel and activate the notifications. Together, we will continue to unveil the mysteries and to shield what is sacred.